So I quickly want to talk about an idea that was discussed at the Bristol Linked Data Hackfest recently. And it was around identifiers for students, but this was more around researchers, I think, specifically postgraduate students and researchers. And it basically goes down to the idea that when a student first comes along to the institution can obviously provide them a username and password as well as an email address, and that the third thing they should be providing for them is a staff profile page, or rather an HTTP identifier, which is what we've got there in the middle. And the idea being that as the student progresses, and why they want this HTTP identifier is that the institution, with all of their different information, whether that's SITs or their Moodle VLE server or their library catalog or their course catalog, that information that they have on the individual student can then be transformed and put at this kind of blank node here, where the student then can actually see, oh, they've got this information about my telephone number, my address, they've got this information on the library books I've checked out, they've got this information on the courses I've taken, and more important, that they can make sure that that's valid. Of course, this information wouldn't be made available. However, the student would have the right to look at it in a closed walled garden, where they could then decide to make it available to the wider world, and specifically make it available by the HTTP identifier. And what's powerful about this is that when the student starts to, let's say, for example, specifically the research graduate student writes a paper, they put their email address on it usually, and of course they finish their graduate paper, they graduate, and they lose their email because we don't want them, reusing that email address when they've moved on. And by providing them with the HTTP identifier, what can actually happen is they can use that to not only put on their research paper, but they could also use it with their grad institution, so that they could submit the information that they've exposed to the graduate information, and then the grad institution could basically then issue a new page for them, and so that when the situation would be repeated, where all that information that the graduate institution is creating for the profile page, the student could be adding. The beauty of it being that if you link these two pages together, and they would, because the student, upon going to graduate school, would take the HTTP identifier, apply to the grad school would then pull in the data that's exposed on that page into the new page they were creating, and they would then become the identity provider, and those two pages would be linked, so that way, when the graduate student was updating the identifier page that they were at, it would link back to the original undergraduate paper and be able to update the original institution with regards to alumni advice and all the rest of it. Of course, the value really for this is the reason it's so powerful is that the student would actually feel like, oh, I'm having a conversation with my institution. Instead of just being a generic number of data, I've got all of this information being pushed to me, and not only do I have the right to edit it and make it available to the wide world to help build up my profile, this plays into portfolio learning reasons as well, but it makes the institution look good that they're not just considering this person just another number, and a lot of students do quit because that's the way they feel. And then, of course, it's just a value chain after that. With each institution or potentially each organization minting their own, you can use this HTTP identifier to pass on information to these other IDPs. So overall, that's the generic idea, and I thought it was a really powerful one, and there was a really nice little prototype built by Mark and Dave on how this could be done, so hopefully I'll have a video of that to show people.